Good morning, 10th class. We have freedom, okay, and two lectures have already been taken. Let us continue with the chapter. We are on page number 21. Children, we had completed till this part wherein Nelson Mandela says that he thinks that the greatest wealth of a country is its people, and he considered the residents of a country, the people of a country, as one of the purest form of diamonds. Okay, we completed till here. Now here on we have to continue. It is from these comrades in the struggle. When he talks about the comrades, he's talking about those freedom fighters who had sacrificed their lives. So it is from these comrades in the struggle that I learned the meaning of courage. According to him, what courage actually meant, he learned from all those people only. Time and again, I have seen men and women risk and give their lives for an idea. When he talks about idea, he's talking about the inhumane policy which existed in their country. So he says there were many people who felt that it was something wrong which existed in their country and they need to fight for that just cause. Okay. I have seen men stand up to attacks and torture without breaking. There are some people who are so determined, who have such a strong willpower that whatsoever torture they may have to undergo, they are still not ready to give up. Okay, they are so steadfast in whatever they have to accomplish in their life. Okay, so he says, I have seen men stand up to attacks and torture without breaking, showing a strength and resilience that defies the imagination. Okay, when he talks about the word resilience, here he means to say that resilient means the power to undergo any amount of torture or pain. Okay, means any amount of suffering, still not giving up and not losing hope. That is what we call it as resilience. So he says resilience that defies the imagination, means we being common people cannot even imagine that there are some people who can fight for a cause. Okay, when we talk about our Indian freedom fighters, even when we talk about Bhagat Singh, when we talk about Lala Lajpat Rai, these were the people who had undergone so much of pain, and there were some who even laid their lives. What for did they do that? They did that for us. They knew very well that the British supremacy, they were trying to exploit the Indians, and their fighting could free us from that unjustified torture. Okay, so resilience that defies the imagination. I learned that courage was not the absence of fear. According to him, according to Nelson Mandela, courage was not absence of fear, but it was having a triumph over it, winning over that fear. Okay, not being frightened, but trying to fight with that fear, defeat that fear, overcome that fear. The brave man is not he who does not feel afraid, but the man who conquers that fear. Conquers means wins over or overcomes that fear. We don't have to, all we have to fear is fear itself. Okay, so keep yourself away from fear and try to defeat that fear instead of keeping yourself always frightened that what would happen and how would I do. Present context, even the pandemic which is going on. Okay, should we or feel frightened of this pandemic, or should we try to fight with all the willpower, standing together, that we need to defeat this problem? Okay, further he says, No one is born hating another person because of the color of his skin or his background or his religion. God made everyone equal. We are differentiating ourselves. Okay. People must learn to hate, and if they can learn to hate, they can be taught to love. He says, more easy than hatred is love. So why are we teaching one another to hate? Why can't we teach one another to love? Okay, so he says they can be taught to love, for love comes more naturally to the human heart than it's positive. Okay, so love is more natural, love is positive. So why not undertake the positive vibes which are there around us? Why to undertake the negative feelings like the hatred? Okay, even in the grimmest times in prison. When he talks about grimmest, he is recalling the time when he had undergone cruel tortures made by the whites. So even in the grimmest times, the darkest times when he had undergone in prison, when my comrades and I were pushed to our limits. Pushed to our limits means we were forced to undergo limitless tortures. Okay, so we were pushed to our limits. I would see a glimmer of humanity in one of the guards. Some people may be bad, but all cannot be bad. So he says, when we were undergoing so much of torture in the prison, still there was one guard whom I felt had that humanity in himself. A glimmer of humanity means a sign of a person holding some human feelings. Okay, perhaps just for a second, but it was enough to reassure me and keep me going. Because for once he felt that everyone is bad, everyone is cruel, every human being is cruel. But that guard, one single guard, kept in him something alive, that humanity still exists. There are good people around us. Man's goodness is a flame that can be hidden but never extinguished. Okay, some of the words of the warmongers, of some politicians, they may misguide us for a while. Okay, they may sow the seeds of differentiation within us, but not for a very long time. So he says man's goodness is a flame that can be hidden, but it can never be extinguished. Goodness still exists. It is that just at that moment we need to realize and explore the goodness in the other person. Further, he continues, in life, every man has twin obligations. Twin obligations. Now, this part is important for a short answer, children. Twin obligations. Obligations refers to the duty which every person has to undertake. And these obligations are obligations to his family, to his parents, to his wife, to his children. So, obligations of a personal life which every man holds. And the second one is obligation towards his people, his community, and his country. Means obligation towards his society. One is obligation for one's family, one is obligation for the country, obligation for the society, a greater obligation which every human being holds or undertakes. In a civil and humane society, each man is able to fulfill those obligations according to his own inclinations and abilities. So every man fulfills his obligations. You take birth, you have to undertake all the responsibilities. Responsibility as a son, as a daughter, as a parent, as a sibling. Okay, so he says that each man fulfills his duties and responsibilities according to his own likes and dislikes and abilities. But in a country like South Africa, he's talking about himself now here. In a country like South Africa, it was almost impossible for a man of my birth and color, means he's talking about the blacks, that it was impossible for a black person to fulfill both of those obligations. He cannot fulfill both obligations. He would just be surviving for his family. Because once when he tries to keep himself alive or fulfill all his responsibilities towards his country, towards his people, towards his society, he was put behind the bars. Okay, what does he say further? A man of color who attempted to live as a human being was punished and isolated. Just live for yourself, for your family. Don't think about the society or people at large. Because if you try to do so, either you would be punished or you would be taken away from your family. Okay, so you wouldn't be able to fulfill any of your obligation. When kept isolated, you would neither be able to do anything for your family nor for your society. In South Africa, a man who tried to fulfill his duty towards his people was inevitably ripped from his family. Ripped means taken away from his family and his own, and he was forced to live a life apart, a life of a twilight existence, a life of secrecy and rebellion. When he talks about twilight existence, you remember we discussed all the meanings before we began with the chapter. So the meaning of twilight existence is given there. It basically refers to leading a secret life. Okay, undergoing a life of secrecy. I did not in the beginning choose to place my people above my family. But in attempting to serve my own people, I found that I was prevented from fulfilling my obligations as a son, a brother, a father, and a husband. So he says, when I tried to think about my people, my society, about the blacks, I was tortured, I was punished, and that punishment did not allow me to fulfill my first obligation. First obligation means obligation towards my family. I was not born with a hunger to be free. He says initially my feelings were not so strong. I was born free. He felt I was free. Free in every way that I could know. Free to run in the fields near my mother's hut. Free to swim in the clear stream that ran through my village. He's talking about his childhood perception of freedom. Free to roast mealies under the stars. Mealies refers to the corn, the maize, bhutta, which we call it. Okay? So free to roast mealies under the stars and ride the broad backs of slow moving bulls. He's talking about as a child what freedom meant to him. As long as I obeyed my father and abided by the customs of my tribe, I was not troubled by the laws of man or God. Because according to him, all the things were going on very nicely, in a very fine way, and there was nothing troublesome about it. It was only when I began to learn that my boyhood freedom was an illusion. As he grew up, he understood that his perception of freedom was wrong. When I discovered as a young man that my freedom had already been taken from me, when he grew up, he realized he was not free, his freedom had been taken away. And I began to hunger for it. And then his desire for freedom actually started. At first, as a student, I wanted freedom only for myself. The transitory freedoms of being able to stay out at night. Transitory means the temporary, something which doesn't exist for long. So, for him, staying out at night, reading what I pleased, and go where I chose were my boyhood perceptions of freedom. Later, as a young man in Johannesburg, I yearned for the basic and honorable freedom of achieving my potential. Potential means capacity. So with the growing up, with the age, his perceptions of freedom kept on changing. And then he realized that I just need to earn my keep. Earn my keep means work enough so that I am being paid deservingly. Okay, so earning my keep means whatever amount of hard work I put in, I'm paid accordingly. Then of marrying and then having a family. The freedom not to be obstructed in a lawful life. So according to him, when he grew up as a young man, these were his perceptions for freedom. So as a little boy, something else. As a young boy, something else. As a grown-up man, something else. Up till now, his perceptions of freedom was this. But then I slowly saw that not only was I not free, but my brothers and sisters were not free. With growing up, he realized that this is not what freedom actually means. So he says, neither I am free, nor the people of my kind are free. I saw that it was not just my freedom that was curtailed, but the freedom of everyone who looked like I did. So he's talking about all the blacks, everyone's freedom in South Africa, every black individual's freedom in South Africa was curtailed. Curtailed means controlled. That is when I joined the African National Congress. Underline this word, African National Congress. And that is when the hunger for my own freedom became the greater hunger for the freedom of my people. And now he is no longer working for his own freedom. He is working for the freedom of all the blacks of his country. It was this desire for the freedom of my people to live their lives with dignity and self-respect that animated my life. Animated my life means brought some aim to my life, brought liveliness to my ambition of achieving freedom for my people. And it transformed a frightened young man into a bold one. So he says, up till now, I was a frightened young man, but now I had given up all that fear. I had become a bold man now, a bold man who would fight for the freedom of his people. That drove a law-abiding attorney. Attorney refers to a lawyer. So all these things made a law-abiding attorney to become a criminal. He started considering himself a criminal now, who didn't wish to follow the laws of the country. That turned a family-loving husband into a man without a home. That forced a life-loving man to live like a monk, giving up all his smaller considerations because now he wanted to fight for his country, his people. Underline the next line. I am no more virtuous or self-sacrificing than the next man. Okay, write the meaning of these lines in the book itself. When he says, no, I'm no more virtuous or self-sacrificing, he says, whenever he tried to raise his voice, he was punished. Whenever he tried to raise his voice, he was punished. Comma. So, he was no more a good man. He was no more a good man, comma. Rather, he had become a bold man who had left all his virtues behind. Okay? Who had left all his virtues behind. Virtues refers to the goodness. Okay? There is a limit of your undergoing a pain or a torture. Okay? When things go beyond that limit, you come up with your true self. And now here he realizes that being virtuous, being good wouldn't have any effect. He has to undertake some boldness in him. He had to give up all his fear. He has to fight for his people. Further he says, but I found that I could not even enjoy the poor and limited freedoms I was allowed when I knew my people were not free. According to him, freedom is indivisible. The chains on any one of my people were the chains on all of them. So he had to work for the freedom of all the people of his country. The chains on all of my people were the chains on me. So he was no longer fighting for himself. He was fighting for a greater cause. He was fighting for the people, the blacks of his country. Further, he says, I knew that the oppressor must be liberated just as surely as the oppressed. So he says it's not only the ones who are oppressing are wrong. The ones who are allowing the oppressor to oppress them are also wrong. So both have to be liberated. Not only the ones who are undergoing that oppression, but also the ones who are causing that oppression. Both have to be liberated. Now he further explains how. A man who takes away another man's freedom is a prisoner of hatred. Okay, children, this question is important. Very important. A man who takes away another man's freedom is a prisoner of hatred. He is locked behind the bars of prejudice and narrow-mindedness. If we are the oppressor, if we are torturing someone else, okay, so we are also a prisoner of hatred, narrow-mindedness, and prejudice. Prejudice means holding a wrong perception towards the other person. I am not truly free if I am taking away someone else's freedom. I have taken someone's freedom. That means that person is also a prisoner, but I myself am also a prisoner. I am a prisoner of hatred. Okay. Just as surely as I am not free when my freedom is taken away from me. So the one who's undergoing the oppression is also a prisoner, and one who is doing that oppression, undertaking that oppression, is also a prisoner. Okay, he is also in jail, I am also in jail. Underline the last line, mark it as important. The oppressed, the one is undergoing the oppression, and the oppressor, one who is doing that oppression, both of them are robbed of their humanity. Both are wrong. If you are allowing the oppressor, you are wrong. If you are yourself an oppressor, you are wrong. Okay? Write the meaning of these lines underneath here. Oppressor is a victim of hatred. Whereas the oppressed, comma, who is chained, is also wrong in allowing someone, is also wrong in allowing someone else, to exploit you. Okay, so this is all about Nelson Mandela and how he fought for the removal of a wrong system which existed in the country. How in the inauguration ceremony, he told the people about years and years of exploitation which their people had been undergoing, and how he emerged as the first black president of South Africa. Okay. Now with this, we finish with the chapter. Tomorrow we shall be doing the question answers. Okay, children. Goodbye. Take care.